Yeah, good morning. I can hear you just fine.
Sweet.
I decided to wear sunglasses today because last time it was cold and it was winter and I was bundled up. But now it's April and it's summer in California.
Sliding into your screen is not just any coffee can. It's a Roastar coffee can. Don't need thousands. Personalize just one in Roastar's Design Lab. No design experience needed. Choose a pattern, add your logo and text, or create something memorable with AI. Being made in the Midwest, you can expect it on your doorstep in no time. Now that was smooth.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Ryan Wolf, the host of the Coffee People and Coffee Smarter podcasts. Both shows are part of our Roast West Coast Coffee Network and presented by our collaborative partners at Roastar Coffee Packaging. You can find them online at roastar.com. You'll also find that link in our show notes or on our newsletter at roastwestcoast.com. Every so often, my friend Nick Schmidt and I connect on a video chat to have a cup of coffee. Nick is the specialty coffee ambassador over at Roastar, and we're often catching up when he's either out exploring the world of coffee or has just arrived home. We catch up on company business, share some of our favorite recent coffee shop experiences, we talk about the coffee industry at large, and generally just have a casual coffee hang. It's fun, and we decided to start recording them, mostly because I was forgetting to make notes about our actual work stuff. So if you haven't poured yourself a fine cup of coffee yet, now is the time. I've got mine. Thanks for watching, and welcome to Nick and Ryan Drink Coffee. How's your morning today?
Good. Yeah, I just had coffee with Mike and Renee from Fire Dancer Coffee Educators.
I don't know them.
Oh, they're another education partner of ours. They're in like the Chicago area.
Wait,
Um,
you have other partners?
yeah,
Hurtful, but okay.
they're fun. You'll get to meet them they'll be at SCA.
You mean the World Coffee something that was in the press
I
release I
saw
received
that.
this week?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not changed for this year, but I think changed for next year in San Diego. Which, first of all, it feels a little personal that as soon as I'm getting ready to move, they just announce that they're going to have next year's expo here when I won't be here. I don't know if that was because of me. I don't know what the motivation was, but selfishly, I feel like it was because of me. And now I won't be around.
I have a feeling you'll find your way back there for the show.
I hope so.
Is
I'm
that a
eating.
Thin Mint?
No, it's my breakfast. It's a dark chocolate peanut butter cup.
Oh,
I have one with my coffee every morning.
is that the Trader Joe's sunflower one?
No, I'm being sugar conscious. So it's from a brand called Skinny Dipped. Unsolicited shout out. Maybe I'll have to beep it out or see if they'll send us some free dark chocolate peanut butter cups. I saw the name change and I thought it was just kind of an interesting timing to drop that like a month before or a few weeks before Expo, as it's known now. Especially when there's kind of all this. There's all this. I don't want to say it's not backlash. It's just there are people who have started to cancel their trips to Texas for Expo this year. You're seeing a lot of social media content now, whether that'll bear out in reality, but like the idea that some people are unhappy about the Houston location because of Texas's history with certain groups of people or their political environment. Now, the tariff situation causing a lot of people to really look at their expenses and reconsider maybe taking a trip in the middle of the spring. It seemed kind of like, hey, here's some news that is not that, and we're going to drop it and see if people pick it up. Whether that worked or not, I would say is suspect, but it kind of felt like that to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, the name change, I don't think that's bad news at all. I mean, it's a pretty global thing already, at least to my US brain. It feels very global compared to other coffee events too. I mean, there are a lot of times when you run into somebody and you're like using a translator app just to have a conversation. Um, like it feels appropriate, but yeah, the timing, I don't know.
No issues with the name change at all. Just the timing of it kind of felt like something they might have announced at SEA or at Expo or right after, but they seemed to maybe push it out to, at least for a minute, stop a news cycle of people going, "Hey, we don't know about Texas," or "We don't know about this event at this time in history," which is, I think, valid and fair. But you don't just know all the different languages. I just kind of assumed.
I've got one language that I speak really well,
Mm-hmm.
and then bits and pieces of other languages that when I try to make a sentence, I'll turn into one multilingual sentence with nouns from French. Like just no.
I worked really hard taking some Spanish lessons before last year's expo, and in hopes that I would be able to use a little bit more of it, when talking to people, and in particular from Mexico. And obviously, I live here in Southern California, although my need for Spanish is much less than I would have guessed. And then when I talk to someone who's a native speaker, I just it's like my brain shuts off like immediately. Like if you're not telling it to me the way the owl does in Duolingo, I'm not processing. I'm getting like every 10th or 15th word. The pace is just so much faster and harder to keep up with. That stupid owl just haunts me in my dreams. And like right now, I'm kind of in a middle period where I'm not as aggressive every day. So he's getting mad at me. And it's brutal. Oh boy. But I'm trying. So for when I make that next trip somewhere, Spanish speaking country, hopefully for coffee, I'll at least have some basics down.
You mean like 20 minutes south? I guess it's a little further up where you are.
It's like, depending on traffic, it's either 35 minutes or 6 hours. It just kind of depends on the situation. It's like I live like kind of in that middle place between Tijuana and Los Angeles. And so no matter which direction I go, it's either 45 minutes or 6 hours. You won't know until you're on the road. When we get back from Expo, I'm judging the Hasea Roast Wars competition, which is in Anaheim, which with no traffic, 45, 50 minutes, easy drive up the 5. I have to drive up and back 3 days in a row from my house. And if last year was any indicator, 2 of those days, it'll be great. I'll make it in about an hour each way, no problem. But on one of those days, and I don't get to pick which one, it's going to take 4. And there's just nothing I can do about it. So that means you have to prepare for the 4-hour day every day.
Every day.
Because I can't be late. I got to be there on time. You've got to figure it out. Got to make sure the dog's taken care of. And so that is just part of traffic. When my brother moved here to Encinitas, which is only 10 miles from my house, he would call me up like randomly on like a Friday afternoon and be like, "Hey, do you want to come down and like play pickleball or something at like 4:30?" And I'd be like, "No, like it's going to take me 2 hours. Like there's no way I'm driving at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon at the 5. It's not something I'm going to miss. I mean, I know there's traffic everywhere, but it's one of the few things I'll be like, yeah, I'm okay with something a little less hectic."
Yeah, I think when you and I had our coffee, we started like kind of near the San Diego area. And it was maybe 40 minutes of driving in total to get up to like near where you live. That drive home, I don't think I ever told you this. Oh my gosh. It took me a good hour and a half, probably closer to 2 hours to get back to San Diego. It was horrible.
I always encourage everyone just to take, the one and drive through the small towns because it's going to take the same amount of time. There's just, even at 30 miles an hour or 15, if that's the case. And it's at least you get a nice view and you get to kind of experience what it's like to live coastally. we're right in this wonderful time of the spring where we have beautiful weather every day, and we're just sort of waiting for that. It used to be called June gloom, but now it's like May gray. That May gray will hit, and we'll just have these foggy mornings and nights, so foggy and misty that it feels like you're getting rained on, when you're out. And that'll last for about 2 months. It clears up, and you get a couple hours of sunshine every day, so it's nothing to complain about. But it's still just it's kind of like reverse summer for everywhere else in the country. Anything new and exciting? I saw a cool little video you did this morning with the Coffee Chronicles. Is that your attempt to replace Nick and Ryan drink coffee?
Hopefully it adds to instead of taking away. There have been quite a few little videos like that, so I actually don't even know what one you're talking about.
This one was with Wisco Joe.
Oh yeah. That we had to take advantage of the beautiful weather outside.
Mm-hmm. Just a few snowballs. I laughed. I thought, this is great. Like, you should just do this all the time. What do they need me for? Which I shouldn't say out loud because someone might actually agree with me. Is that something you've been doing a lot of? You don't even know you said you don't even know which one. You have someone doing it for you, which is nice, like putting them out.
Yeah. I don't post them actively. I do on our Instagram. I engage with a lot of people. Like, I just keep up to date on customers and comment on things and like things. But I don't actually post those videos. But yeah, I actually just went to the site of SCA Houston a couple weeks ago and did some little videos at a handful of different coffee shops.
Oh, nice.
So those are, if you just saw the Roast magazine put out the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So that is kind of a guide to the city. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like restaurants, nightlife, but coffee shops is a big one. So I went out there and I went to not all of them, but most of the coffee shops that are on their list of recommendations. And so we'll be sprinkling out some little coffee shop suggestions for when you're in Houston.
That's kind of fun. You're not going to be down in Houston for the expo, or you are?
I'll be there. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of fun that you get to go and do it without the crowds, without the people looking at those recommendations, and then come back and see what it's like again. We should say Roastar has a booth at Expo. I think it's booth 919, which I'm going to be doing interviews at every morning, Friday, Saturday. I know you're setting those up for us, which I'm super pumped about. But also, anyone who shows up at the booth while I'm there and can show us that they're subscribed to Nick and Ryan Drink Coffee or Roast West Coast or any of that stuff, I'm going to have a little Santa sack of goodies to give away as well. So if you're listening, we'll see you at Expo. I had this dream of coming into today's conversation of just winging it and just having fun. But then things kept happening. I kept seeing things, and I actually made a list. But I was really thinking of you the other day because you go to a lot of coffee shops, as many or more than I do, which is rare because I go to a lot of different shops. But I do have a local shop that I've been going to for 7 or 8 years, pretty consistently. I try to get there as often as I can when I'm home. And the other day when I was in there, I realized this might be the last time that I'm here. Unless I make a concerted effort, I'm just not going to be around in this neighborhood much longer. And so I felt a little weird about it, but there's one particular barista who I've, become friendly with over the years. Obviously he's working, I'm a customer, so it's, it's a little bit of a barrier there, but I felt the need to say thank you for your service and, compelled to say goodbye. I'm wondering if you ever feel that way, or if that's something that you can relate to, since, you do go to so many places, it's harder to get back to one place over and over again.
Yeah, that's definitely true that a lot of the shops I go to once. Also just being in Wausau, we don't have that many options. I've been to every coffee shop that's in Wausau. Yeah, I think being on the road, it's definitely an interesting feeling, especially when the experience is really special. And knowing if it's I mean, if it's somewhere that I'm going to be back again, like in LA, I have one coffee shop that I go to every time, just because it's just, I don't know, something I've established, it's something I like doing. But I've never really had to like say goodbye to a coffee shop, except for when I worked at one.
Right.
When I worked at Starbucks, really, because I was there for quite a while. Like I got really intimate with customers. I knew everybody very well. And I experienced like customers leaving or moving away a couple times. And it was, I mean, it's like, it's got to be sad, like being on that side of it, moving away and like leaving a place that you care about so much. But also, I think the fact that it got special in the first place is cool. And like knowing you'll be back to like some of them eventually, maybe again, even if it's a year from now versus the like weekly trip that you usually take.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about being on the other side of it because I've been on that side a lot in my life, as a bartender, even as a barista, where you get engaged with. There are some customers, believe it or not, that you like to see more than others, and look, if you're not sure if you're someone that the team likes to see, maybe you should think about a little bit more how you're behaving in the coffee shop. I didn't even think about it from that side of things, and that actually makes me feel a little bit less awkward about like saying, "Hey, buddy, thanks a lot. See you later." But I think the point was is that, and maybe what you were just touching on is the coffee shop, besides a place to get coffee, because as much as I loved the coffee at this place all these years, the busier and the more popular it got, the harder it was for them to stay consistent. Not every shot was perfect, the way it was in the beginning. And that was okay, because what I'm really missing is that comfort that comes with knowing that every time I walk in, there's going to be some great service. Likely someone will say, "Hey, hello," and know me personally. It won't be like a, "Hello, how are you today, sir?" It'll be more of a, "Hey, buddy, or how's it going?" And a place away from home that feels like home.
I agree. I mean, at the same time, some of the best shops or some of the best coffee comes from shops with the worst service, in my opinion. Which, not that it's bad service, but it's a different type. Maybe they show care differently.
Mm-hmm.
A shop in Wausau, which I think has the best coffee in Wausau. You go there when you like almost want like not somebody to be rude to you, but like you want it to be like short sometimes. Like there's something about the way that you receive service at certain shops that feels different, like not as
It's
the
not
whole
about you;
formula.
it's about the coffee for them.
Yeah, I mean, and not say that shop totally cares a lot about like the people that come in. There's really good relationships there too, but it's not the same as going to somewhere that's got big comfy chairs and like you get like a dark roast cup of coffee and it's just nothing but love. Like that's like all that
Yeah,
it's about, and the coffee sucks.
yeah.
It's like the flip side of that. Not that
Uh,
every place with big chairs and dark coffee has bad
no,
coffee, but
no. I just went to
sure.
a place in Phoenix. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna forget the name. It's downtown. I'll find it and post it right here next to our faces. I think it ends in Bird, but it was they had like a house cat in these big comfy chairs that were at least 50 to 100 years old. I'm what it was the 70s. How many years ago is that? 60 years. They were definitely from like pre 70s era, and a little damp, which is never great. But it was so comfortable and warm, and like the cat would sit there, and like I'm not a big cat person, but this cat was awesome, and he just kind of hang out and purr with you while you waited for your cup of coffee, and it's just a totally different vibe. I went to 3 shops that day, that morning. From there to the next one where it was a much colder, more modern, clearly like mid 2000s, late 2000s kind of vibe, very simple. And then from there to another place, which was entirely done in concrete, very cold and industrial, but then with like this beautiful art all over the place. And they had like a little film studio, like film camera, like vintage, they would produce your film for you. And it was just such a unique experience. I honestly came away from it going, oh, some of my preconceived notions about Phoenix hospitality were not accurate. And it wasn't just like one or two places. There were seven, within a stretch that you could hit one after another if you wanted, and just get a totally unique, interesting experience, which is good for me to remember that, like, even though, and I think for you too, and it's some old person advice, when you do this long enough, you start to get a little jaded. When a lot of your life is spent going to experience other people's hospitality, it can be easy to like start judging it a little bit more harshly than maybe it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that Phoenix reminded me of, in a great time as we're coming up on a long summer of free coffee touring and traveling and visiting people, was like, go into it knowing that like most people don't start coffee shops just to be a mass market fast thing. Sometimes they grow into that, and you can usually tell if they were designed that way. But for the most part, like a lot of the indie coffee shops, if not all of them, in my opinion, were started because somebody really loved this thing or really wanted to share this thing with you. And even if it's not my thing, it doesn't mean it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
I do like my things, though.
I like my things too.
I didn't even ask if you were drinking coffee. I feel like I haven't seen you drink any coffee.
Yeah, I've got a
cold.
An iced Chemex I've got this morning with
Nice.
This is a natural Brazil from Dutori Coffee I brought back from San Francisco last week.
Did you do it on the stove? Like, did you heat it up on the stove, kind of like an old mocha pot? I know some people that do that. I'm guessing no, just based on your response. But
no. I mean, I just like, I do my ice in the bottom. I think I don't know. I don't want to say it's like the Japanese iced coffee because I don't
flash
think I know
chilled.
enough about the Japanese iced coffee recipe that I doubt it was authentic. If it's just a style, I don't really know. But kind of like half the water on top, the other half on the bottom, roughly. Nice.
We used to use a Clever dripper to make we'd call a flash chilled iced coffee, Japanese style, where we'd brew on the top essentially a 4-minute steep in a Clever dripper and then drop it over the ice. So it was like a hot brewed coffee that would then become cold, essentially. So it's not like it's not a cold brew. It's an iced coffee, but it's chilled very quickly, when the heat. And it was a really interesting thing because when I first learned how to do it, it was just, don't screw this up. But then the more I, did it, the more comfortable I got with it, the more you realize like, oh, you really have to be careful with like your ratio of ice to the coffee, because that ice is going to become water. And then, taking it, the precision of it one step further and further, kind of every few months as I progressed as a barista at that point.
That's been exactly my journey. When I started out, I would do half the water and then the other half in ice. And then I started to realize that like not all the ice would melt right away. So then it was like too strong, but then over time it would melt. And so I started backing off, doing a little bit less ice. Like I've kind of found the right amount, like about 35% of the water in ice to 40% is where it like all melts as it's brewing and it comes out the right strength.
I commend you for making the effort. I'm definitely not making the effort to do that at home. I did learn recently, and I felt kind of dumb, like not realizing it, but I had a bunch of cans of cold brew left over from an event, canned cold brew from a local roaster, and it was great when we got it. But the event was last fall. And so I pulled a can out of the refrigerator that had been kind of stuck in the back, and I opened it up, and like the first sip immediately was like notably kind of sour. And I went, I don't think this isn't great. And so I actually went on Blue Sky, which is kind of the up and coming Twitter clone, and just kind of asked like, hey, how long do you think your canned cold brew lasts in the fridge? And the responses came in pretty fast, but there's a great coffee writer, if you don't follow him, Fian Pooler, he writes the Pour Over blog. He responded right away and had done a bunch of research and interviews on this very topic. And not only is it like kind of a shorter period than you might guess, even canned, because it's not like it's forever. It's not like a can of water. It's a living, breathing kind of entity to some extent. but also they can be dangerous. After so long, viruses can develop, or bacteria rather can develop, and you can get really sick. And he kind of sent me all this stuff, and so I went through and I looked at like all the Born On dates or all the Best By dates, and like ended up dumping out like 6 cans of cold brew that were in my fridge, just because I didn't know that. I never would have thought it. I just kind of assumed like, oh, it's packaged, it's probably fine.
Yeah, I don't know what the shelf life actually is, like what they have to put on it, but I know that canning, well, just cold brew in general is like, it can be a touchy health subject. There was I forget the name of the company. I remember it, but I'm not
where
say
they did
it.
a recall last year.
Yeah,
We
because
posted
of
about that.
botulism. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that was like if I'm remembering right, a white labeling company. So they actually did cold brew for a bunch of different companies, and you had to kind of look and see if your local roaster was on that list.
Yeah. It ended up not really being too much of a thing. It was just it was like a step in their process that didn't have paperwork or like writing around it, or wasn't approved or something, but it didn't actually lead to what it
could
have, which is why the recall was. But it ended up being okay. I think they just had to set their process in stone or something.
Well, I think that's kind of I appreciate that it was more aggressive than not, because we trust the food that we buy on our shelves for the most part. And that was one of the comments in the Pour Over blog column about, I think it was Richard Anderson or Richard Armstrong, who was the person being interviewed. Wasn't that it's not possible to do it correctly or that you should be worried. It was that a lot of people don't realize the potential for botulism or other bacteria. And so they're less precise. They're not careless. That's not the right word, but they're just not thinking about that possibility when they're they're just excited. Like, let's make this and get it out and give it to people, and not thinking about like, oh, if it sits out overnight, bacteria can grow, like depending on your process, especially if you're really small and you're not able to go through a larger facility or a precise scientific facility. Coming from the restaurant world, like I've certainly worked in restaurants where if you were in the kitchen, you probably wouldn't eat there, but somehow it's always the best tasting food. But also, like, maybe don't. If you know, like restaurant people will talk about it, but and I'm not saying coffee's like that, but I think it's just a reminder. Like, if you're out there brewing or selling, in particular, sharing, make sure your steps are in place. Like, this is it's food. It's something that we're ingesting, and who knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, a couple years ago, I had what I thought was a brilliant idea to make cold brew and put them in like the juice pouches, like the Capri Sun pouches.
That is
like,
actually brilliant.
Buy those to like seal them. It's like, I should do this and do it at the farmer's market. And then before I was about to just like buy the pouches and just start, and then there was a lot more to it. I was like, this is not really a very good idea for where I'm at.
Some friends of mine just launched a oat milk company, and the first kind of photo that they posted is them like in what looks like a lab from the movie Alien or something, and they've got hairnets on and lab coats, and in my head I'm like, I just make oat milk in my blender at home. Like, but for them, they're selling it, they're putting it out there. You got to make sure that everything is on point. It's called, I think it's called Blue Milk, Super Brain Blue Milk. Shout out to David and Cassidy Elizondo, formerly partners of my old show with the First Light Whiskey. Sorry, making those connections. I wanted to touch on this because of what I was talking about earlier with saying goodbye to a coffee shop. What happens when you like a coffee shop, you become loyal to it, and then the quality drops? How long do you keep going? Especially, it's harder if it's easier if the service stops being good too. But if the service is still good, but the coffee isn't good, how long do you continue to support and say, well, maybe they'll turn it around?
I mean, I think it depends on how the relationship formed at first. Like, was it your favorite coffee shop because, I mean, obviously if the service is good, that's a reason, but did you like it because they had great coffee? Or did you like it because it's where you went on your first date, now you keep going there, or it's the closest to you, or any other number of things. Like why is it your favorite shop? But yeah, and I mean, if the quality is like whatever level the quality is at when you become a regular there, and it's even if it's not super high, that's whatever. But if it like noticeably declines, that's another thing. And it's also tricky because, like, I mean, 90% of the time, if the quality goes down, it's human error. Like on some at some point, even if it's like the roaster that like isn't doing as good of a job, or a new barista that isn't tamping shots or doing something correctly. Like it's a human thing that like training could probably fix.
Mm-hmm.
But like even if like you standing on the other side of the counter think you know what the issue is, like we're not, as a customer, we're not in a position to like try and tell them what they need to do better. So I think it's really awkward to address.
Yeah, it's not something I would address. I mean, maybe I would if I knew them well enough or I knew, somebody in charge. But I think the question, like, it's harder when you do. Uh, it would be very awkward as a customer to be like, "Hey, you are not doing a good job. You used to do a good job." Like, that's not what I'm trying to say here. I think the question becomes. I think most people wouldn't do that. I think most people would just sort of fade away, or the reality is there are so many other options. They might just find another place that is meeting that need. And it's just a reminder, I think, to always be tweaking, always be checking yourself. Like it's easy to get into a rhythm and just do the same thing over and over again. And especially if you're growing, sometimes those processes fall off. Did the new people know those processes as well as the originals? Always tough. Starting a second location is always tough for any cafe or restaurant because of that. How do you keep the same level of quality? How do you rebuild the vibe? And places like Intelligentsia's, when they were first kind of launching and they were still independent, they did a really good job of recognizing that each of their locations had to be unique. They weren't trying to replicate like a franchise model. They were creating a space that fit the neighborhood that they were in. And so I always found when I would go from like the one in Logan Square, Chicago was the first Intelligentsia I went to the one in Pasadena, which I think was the second, totally different experience. Coffee was the same, but the vibe and the feel of the place was totally different. And I thought they did a really good job of recognizing that each community is going to have its own little niche, its own little vibe. Um, I've been kind of just running this today I'm running a show and just talking about anything you you wanted to bring up this morning. I was going to ask you what your first, if you're willing to share, like you mentioned, like, did you start becoming a regular because your first date was there? Do you remember what your first date with your partner was? You've been together quite a while.
We met at work.
Of course.
Well, we had like a college class, like an English class together, but we didn't talk. And then we started working together at Starbucks, like 6 years ago. But it's not like we're going to Starbucks for dates now. That was just something I said.
Yeah, but you still would have had a first date, right? Where with the first time you connected outside of those Starbucks walls, magic that might have been there. It's a different experience, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, our first real date, I would say, was a chicken pot pie at 2510 in the
Oh,
bistro
nice.
outside. I don't know if you've had one of those.
I mean,
That is
I grew up going to 2510, classic, iconic local supper club. I used to
those two pot pies,
feel
top
a
tier.
sense of competition with them, being the son of a competing supper club, but always appreciated what they did there. That's food is such a common first date experience for people, and coffee or whatever. But food and drink is how people come together. I met my wife at work too. We met at Old Navy, of all places. And on our first date, we got a pizza and we were going to watch movies. And while we were in the grocery store, she threw a can of Spam at me. And it hit me from like 25 feet away. And as much as I love my wife, if I gave her a baseball in a small room, she couldn't hit the wall like that I asked her to, because she's not a thrower, so to speak. But somehow she picked up a can of Spam and threw it at me and hit me. And I thought, I'm in love. This is it. So
And then he found out she couldn't throw.
I forgave her. I should be a little more. We had technically, it wasn't an official date, but we did go and see the Lord of the Rings movie in the theater with her parents. The first time that we were ever kind of hanging out outside of school or outside of work. And so, if you would ever like to be extremely awkward and uncomfortable, sit next to a girl you like with her parents when you're 22 and watch a 3.5 hour Lord of the Rings marathon.
That's a long time. I was sick a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, and I turned on Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched quite a bit of it, and then I took a really long nap, and then I woke up and I watched what felt like quite a bit of it, and then I took another long nap, and I woke up, and there was still like an hour left, and I had no concept of time. I thought it had been all day long, and the same movie was just still on.
It's possible that it was, or they were just playing them on repeat. I've got to finish my peanut butter cup. Anything exciting going on over at Roastar with you guys? You got the Coffee Chronicles that you're doing. You're traveling all over the place. SCA Expo coming up. What's the good word over there?
Yeah, really excited for SCA. I mean, that's really our one like event of the year that we get to. Like, it's not as much about like bringing in new sales as it is just like seeing people that we know. Like we see, we like scan people's badges and we can kind of like break down like who we met with over the show. And at like some of the Coffee Fest shows, it's a lot more about like, this is a potential new customer, like they could be a good fit. But at SCA, the percentage of people that are current customers that we just chatted with is so high. And that's what I'm looking forward to at the end of this month.
Are you doing any sort of vocal exercises to get ready?
I've learned a little bit. I've been to, I think, like 5 different coffee shows, expo things since that last year. And I'm enjoying my coffee all year long instead of all at once. And I learned water is a good thing to drink. I'll probably have tea that morning before the show. Yeah, I hope to maintain my voice all the way throughout this year.
Yeah, we should come up with a list. I don't know why that was hard for me to say. We should come up with a list of tips for people attending Expo. Hydrate could be one of them. Like for me, I always bring like an extra shirt or something because I inevitably spill coffee or something on myself. Those sort of tips, or like a bag that you're not afraid to get stolen. I always have like a little cinch sack with like snacks and extra things, and I'll toss it under a table somewhere. And it's not that it's likely to get stolen; it's more likely that it'll get picked up and moved or whatever because there's so many people. But any other tips or advice you have for maybe rookies attending this year for the first time?
Well, I'm actually writing a little bit of a piece on that already, so there will be more tips to come. But a big one is shoes. Obviously, like you want to wear comfortable shoes because you're standing all day, but don't wear the same pair of comfortable shoes all 3 days. Like switching shoes is huge. Like, even if you're switching to like a slightly less comfortable pair of shoes, just like that, the actual change is like refreshing on your feet.
That's actually really good advice. I made the mistake of wearing not great shoes for my first couple expos, and you definitely pay for it later. I'll get to my hotel room and just be like, once I sit down, that's it. Like as long as I'm moving, I'm fine. But the second I sit, it's over. Well, I'm excited to be there. I'm coming down. I'm going to Colorado first, and then driving down to Houston from there. And so I'm going to get a chance to meet up with some coffee people. Rainforest Alliance, we're going to do some coffee with them in Denver, and then hopefully run into Fabian at Apis Coffee, who was on the show recently, in Castle Rock on our way down, explore some coffee in Fort Worth and Austin, and then eventually Houston. And then on the way back, I got a hotel on my way back to California, about a block or two from Presta Coffee in Tucson, so we'll be able to.
Oh yeah, say hi to
check in with them.
Curtis. I've been wanting to go to Presta for a long time.
Yeah, it's been on my list, but I never get down to Tucson, and here I saw like an opportunity to drive right through. So figured I would end the day there and wake up in the morning with press stuff for the last push home. Nick, it's always just a refreshing time chatting with you. I'm excited to see every time I'm watching your stuff, your Coffee with Nick Instagram, the stuff Roastar is putting out. It's exciting to see your excitement or your curiosity for the people in coffee. So I appreciate you spending time with me.
Well, yeah, thanks. It's always good to have a coffee. I wasn't even sure if we were recording half the time, and we just kind of I just joined and then immediately started talking, and then there was no break, so we just kept going.
There's a good chance I'm recording all of the time. Just this camera just stays on and I just pop in and out. No one ever sees most of it, but it's just in case. Actually, that's something kind of off topic, but I noticed you had a little mic clipped onto a coffee bag in one of your videos, and you were using the coffee bag as your microphone. Freaking brilliant. I thought that was awesome. I was like, oh, I'm going to steal that for sure.
Actually, yeah, that morning before I went to because I kind of was like interviewing different people. I don't know if we actually put the video up fully. I had like went to a dog, and I like had the dog talking to the microphone. He didn't say anything, but the thought that morning was I wanted to take like an espresso portafilter.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like, isn't that like a perfect microphone, a portafilter?
Yeah, if you could figure out how to put it in there,
it would work somehow.
Yeah.
But I was like in the middle of San Antonio, and I guess I could have probably found a shop to borrow one from. But the bag of coffee from Orgullo Coffee was the best I could do. That's actually that coffee bag you'll be sitting down with Bridget from Orgullo at the show.
Yeah, I'm excited. I looked up all their stuff to start preparing, and even though we're going to be on location and doing kind of an off the cuff interview, I still want to kind of know who I'm talking to, and like right away when I saw their kind of stories, like, oh, I can see why Nick wanted to set this one up. They got a good vibe, and the whole focus on Honduras, is unique to them. So pretty excited about that. Thanks for having a cup of coffee, Nick. I'm gonna get a refill here.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going on mine and maybe send an email or two, and get back to work. Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Ryan. We'll see you in a couple weeks in Houston.
See you then, buddy.